Welcome to the Coach Dave Love podcast, where basketball's best meet the science behind skill. Join me, NBA shooting coach Dave Love, and host Matt Robertson as we unpack biomechanics, motor learning, and research-driven insights shaping the future of basketball shooting development.
Welcome to the Coach Dave Love podcast. I am your host, Matt Robertson. With me, as always, NBA shooting coach Dave Love. Dave, tell me about your master's. What's going on?
This semester is a lot more manageable. I'm only in one class because I'm taking this part-time, because there's no way I would have been able to do this full-time with a consultant job in a small business and a family. So just one class this semester, but the two classes last semester. The class this semester is around different frameworks. And an example would be, like, I was involved in the writing of the post framework adapted for basketball shooting in the NBA. So we have to create our own framework. And the instructor sort of gave us, like, at the end of the semester, you're going to have to present. You can pick somebody else's framework and present that, but you better know it inside out, and you better have no objections with it. Otherwise, why didn't you create your own framework? And so I started with a couple of ideas, and I initially had one that was sort of a fan model, like a folding fan that you would use, like, and the different brackets or the different layers that I use in the middle of and it was just really complicated. And so then I created another one and just kind of created a quick little visualization of it on the on Canva, and met with my professor and said, like, here's what I'm working on. He's like, oh, this is excellent, which was like all of these things that go in, like, not, I think this is good, this could suck. And so to get a little feedback that, yeah, you're 80% of the way there, and you got a couple of months before you have to do this thing, that was pretty fulfilling. So as the average guy in the room, can you explain to me, when you say framework, I have like a fragment of an idea in my mind, but, like, what are you trying to create? Help me understand. I'm trying to give some scaffolding or some, like, something tangible that a coach can reference to say, you know, when do I do this? When do I move on? What, like, how do I do this? And what rules or guidelines do I need to follow? That would be kind of what. And honestly, like, I'm still myself a little fuzzy at times. Like, I'm still doing, like, do I understand the difference between a framework and a theory and a model and all these different things? And, like, I'm not totally sure I do. And then meet with my mentor, and he says, yeah, you're confused because they're all kind of the same. And oh, okay, good, because they felt very similar to me, and I didn't understand what. So, like, it's been a really fun learning experience to go through, and I'm feeling a lot more confident talking about the ideas. And then I'm having to remind myself, like, don't get too academic-y in your language. And so please, like, push back on me in especially, like, this podcast. We're going to be talking about some different skill acquisition ideas, and keep pushing back on me and going, like, okay, but for a coach, what does that mean? So that I don't turn it into academic stuff.
Well, even if it's still, I can see the application, the simplicity and the simplicity of language is what's going to be important for me, because, you know, I know we've been talking for almost 2 years on this thing, but we have been talking for 2 years on this thing, and I still, there's still times you'll reference something and I'll say, oh, what is that again? Just not using the verbiage, you know, so simplification of language is going to be important today.
And there are times where, like, I'll learn and I'll go, oh, got that a little wrong for the last few months. And, like, we did a podcast on differential learning not long ago where I talked about, I may have been a little off base, not wildly off base, but what I thought was differential learning is actually guided discovery. And Differential learning is a little more structured, or a little more specific. That would be a better word for it. And so, yeah. One other thing around the master's program, we had Nick Winkelman. Have we discussed? Do you know the name Nick Winkelman? He has a book out called The Language of Coaching, and it's an excellent book. All coaches should be reading it, and it's just about, obviously from the title, like the words that we use, and internal external cues, analogy learning, implicit learning, like those sorts of ideas. And he came on as a guest lecturer, and like he was one of the most profound moments of his presentation, which was excellent, by the way. He said something to the effect of, um, this certainly isn't comprehensive. Like his work isn't, or maybe he said correct, but it's effective. Meaning, like, we don't have, and I have to keep reminding myself of this, we don't have definitive answers in skill acquisition. We have evidence, but we don't have proof. And so, um, I just want to kind of say to the listeners, like, all of these things that we talk about, there's a bunch of evidence that says we should be headed in this direction, but we need to stay open-minded and we need to stay critical. So because even the constraint-led approach, I did some research today around, like, okay, what are the downfalls or the limitations of the constraint-led approach? It wasn't designed for skill acquisition in sport. It was adapted. And so there's still going to be things that we go, that's limited in this way, and we really need to look, and we'll come up with a new theory. Uh, who knows when? Who knows what it'll look like? And we'll all kind of gravitate in that direction because it will be an adaptation and an improvement on the holes in these theories. And we have to stay critical of this, because even the constraint-led approach, which I buy into, and an ecological approach, which I'm very much trying to move towards myself, they're not all encompassing. They don't catch everything for every player in every moment.
It's so interesting to think about, again, the theoretical versus the actual. And even when you were talking about framework, if you're going to adapt a framework, you better be completely bought into 100% of it, or otherwise you should just be designing your own framework.
Right.
I think it applies also in this, like, theoretical learning discussion also.
And one of the nice things when I had this meeting with my professor about my framework, or the idea for my framework, that he's like, okay, but now you have to take time and step back and be critical. Like, what holes are you missing? Like, yours isn't going to be perfect either. There's going to be limitations to it. There's going to be keep saying holes in it. You just have to know what those are. And like, though, that sort of thinking is really, like, becoming fun, where you read a study and you learn from the study, but then you also take a step back and be critical of it to say, like, well, that was a pretty small sample size, and wait a second, their retention test came one day after the learning, so is that really retention? And wait a second, their game representative test to test learning, is that really game representative? And often the answer is no, because you're trying to do a test. And it's been so easy for me. I think I came into the master's program expecting black or white answers on a lot of stuff, and expecting to be told, like, the right way or the wrong way. And what I'm learning that I'm going to learn is the the skill of being critical and analytical around something, and not looking for the black or white answers, but learning what you can, being critical, and evolving your thinking from whatever you learn and are critical of.
It's the reason every answer is it depends, right? Is because
I can't believe how much my professors are saying that. And there's,
Man,
well, it kind of depends on context. Like,
I was giving in my real job, I was giving a presentation last week, and there were 7 or 8 Q&As, 7 or 8 questions after, and every single one of them by time 5, I was like, how easy is my job? I just get to say it depends, and then we move on, right? It's
right.
it's good.
Well, and I had a great conversation with one of our listeners where he was asking a question. Like I sort of act as a bit of a mentor to him and answer some of his questions as he's starting his skill acquisition journey. And he's working with a lot of youth players. And then he has another coach that he's learning from as well. And that coach is working with like elite shooting professionals. And then he has me, and my job is more around the poor shooting professionals. And we all have a very different perspective. And then there's not involved in this conversation, but a fourth guy who has come from a youth level and is now coaching at a professional level. Not with I'm not sure which category of players his specific players that he's working with would fit into, but we all have uniquely different lenses on how we're applying these theories. And I said to him, like, the way that you apply a constraint-led approach with a player who has a decade to figure out a solution and doesn't yet have the capacity for certain skills, um, is developing the capacity versus how the other guy would be applying the same theory to somebody who is already elite at the skills. To me, who I've got shorter timelines, I've got more entrenched habits, and I've got somebody that doesn't have a functional solution. The way that we're all applying this same theory should be wildly different. And it's just the understanding of that, because I see a lot of people who are like, oh, this is how I use the constraint led approach, and I'm using it with the elite players. Therefore, that's going to be good for poor shooters. No, it's not. That's you're missing the point. That like these challenges or the challenges faced by these different groups of players are incredibly different, and we need to understand how to still use the same model and the same theory for those different needs.
I've said it a couple of times. We've been doing this podcast for 2 years, and I am not yet an NBA shooting coach. Like, application is everything. Like, to know all the things and to learn all the things and all of the theory is one thing, but application is where the sausage is made, I guess is a bad analogy.
Sure.
But application is everything, and you could have all the knowledge in the world, and if you're not using it properly. In my education degree, we did a learning theories class, and the prof at like minute 70 of a lecture was talking about how the human brain learns best in 25-minute snippets or 20-minute snippets. And I was like,
Okay.
you have all the knowledge and you're not, like that. I must have woken myself up for that little snippet, because it just, anyway, it's insane.
Well, and with my lens, like I have a much better understanding of how I would work with a great shooter now. I've better formed ideas and theories around how I do that. I have next to no practical application. I don't like, there are very few of those guys, and then I'm busy with the other guys at the other end of the gym, and I love that. Like, I love my niche in my job. I'm not complaining about that at all, or dismissing another person's job. They're just very different, and we need to understand that.
Yes. Steph Curry and Joakim Noah, two very different shooters, apparently, eh?
Yeah.
Dave, let's kind of segue into the episode here. Appreciate the update. I always love to hear what you're learning. I end up learning as a proxy, and the listeners as well. So this is excellent. Dave, today we're going to talk about Challenge Point. Do you want to intro the episode? We'll go to commercial, and then we'll really hash it out.
Yeah, challenge point. Think of the Goldilocks principle, and that we don't want too hot, too cold. We want just right, and that is essentially like everything I'm adjusting in my workouts is to find the challenge point. Like I think if a coach is only aware of one skill acquisition idea, this should be it. And that, in my opinion, this is where you should start. This is where we should make sure that you're understanding.
Incredible intro. Dave, let's take a quick break and let's get into the meat of the episode after the break.
Coaches, if you want to keep getting better at teaching shooting, I've created a free shooting newsletter just for you. Inside, I break down the habits and principles that I teach to NBA players. Concepts like the sandbox analogy, positive and negative energy, shot metrics, and how to actually design drills that transfer to games. Every email is designed to help you see shooting differently so that you can cut through the noise, challenge old assumptions, and give your players a real advantage. I've consulted with NBA teams, NCAA programs, national federations, and youth organizations around the world. And the insights I share in the newsletter are the same ones I share with them. If you're not on it, you're simply missing out on tools that other coaches are already using to develop their shooters. Sign up today on CoachDaveLove.com and start learning the skills to help your players unlock their potential.
Usually, after our first break, we have an ATO where we come out of a timeout, we draw something up. We didn't really talk about anything real pertinent to the episode, so let's get into one of the other gimmicks of the podcast. One of the things we're trying to do is really build a community of people who contribute and feel heard. And one of the things we've been asking for and have received some are listener questions. Dave, tell us why you want to hear listener questions.
We want to get listeners the information that they want. Like you and I sit down sometimes a few days before the episode, sometimes a few minutes before the episode, and plan like, what do we want to teach? And we got a bunch of ideas, but it's much better if our listeners can say what they want to learn. And so the way that we're asking you to do that is, and after this explanation, pause the podcast and do this for me. Think of that thing that you would love to just get clarification on, or that thing that you would love to ask. If we were sitting face to face, what would you want to ask me? Go into the voice note or voice memos app on your phone and just say, hey, Dave, my name is so-and-so. I'm from such and such. I'm coaching these kind of players. I've always been wondering, and I'd love to ask you, and ask the question. You can ramble on for 90 seconds. Lord knows I ramble on at times, not in this exact moment. But yeah, ask me your question, and then we will play it on the podcast, and we'll answer your question. And I hope that we'll start to get some traction with people. And I'm hoping one day we can do like listener question episodes where it's just like, here's 5 questions we got this week. And even better, here's 5 questions on this particular topic. And but that'll take some time. And so please pause the podcast and record right now.
Once you record it, you can send it to podcast@coachdavelove.com. I'm looking at that email from time to time. We'll get it. We'll play it on the air and we'll get to have some fun. Okay. Thank you for that. Dave, moving on. What is the challenge point? I know over the last, 70 episodes, we've referenced the challenge point innumerable times, and we've done some snippets on it. Let's really dig into it. So where'd it come from? What is it?
All right, this is my biggest test of the episode, the pronunciation of the last name. So this is a framework proposed by Mark Guadagnoli and Tim Lee in their paper in 2004, the Challenge Point Framework. Core idea of the Challenge Point Framework is that there is an optimal level of task difficulty that maximizes learning. Not too easy, not too hard. And so we need our practice to be at that level of difficulty in order for players to maximize. It's not suggesting that they won't learn at other levels of difficulty. It's just saying they don't learn as fast. So if something is not difficult enough, then the gap between the learning environment and the performing environment might be too big for the player to transfer the skill. And as likely, and probably part of the equation, is it might be boring. and you might lose engagement for the player. On the flip side, if the challenge is too high, then we might be putting the players outside of like the ability to try something new. If you ask me, okay, we're going to go learn how to ride a bike, and you're going to do it in the middle of an intersection during rush hour traffic, then I might not be able to learn the little skills within riding a bike because I'm so worried about not dying. And so like that's kind of an extreme example of the challenge point. Like the environment is too difficult, and players could either revert back to their old motor pattern in the case of like a shooting mechanic, or just be too focused on uh, the something other than the intention of the activity. And I just want to I know I've gone on for a bit here, but I just want to make sure like all of this is specific to an intention. You've got to kind of know, what am I working on to assess the level of challenge of that thing.
It is, I think, our first episode. What is the purpose? And
Right.
you have to ask that question, because if you're going in doing a drill without real intent and you're adjusting challenge point, is it, okay, dribble, jump stop, jump shot, or pass, or decision, whatever. What are we actually working on there? Is it just the drill to do the drill? Are we just getting better at the drill?
Right.
Like,
Well said. Yeah, exactly. Like, hopefully, the better we get, the more specific we're being with our intention. And I always sort of make the comment at the end of my clinics for kids, like, you ask an 8-year-old who's going to the park to play basketball, what are you working on? They might, I'm going to play basketball. Good. That's a good answer for an 8-year-old. Hopefully, by the time they're 12, they're saying, I'm going to work on my shooting. Okay, better, still maybe a little broad. Hopefully the 16-year-old is saying, I'm going to be working on getting my guide hand off uh, in my shot. And then hopefully when we're a professional, we're specific enough, like, I'm working on, I really struggle when I'm going right. And like, they get more specific than just what habit they're working, what habit in what context. And the more intentional we can be, I think the more valuable the challenge point becomes.
yeah, I just picture LeBron finishing, his season and going into the workouts in the summer and just going into the gym and working for, 3 months and just coming back. I came back with a post game. I was just in the gym all summer and just happened to come back with a post game. It's like, obviously these guys all have a thing they're trying to add to their bag in an off season, and it doesn't happen without real specific intentionality. Oh no, I walked in with better footwork today just because I was playing all summer is not the answer.
Exactly. The last thing I want to say on the definition of the challenge point, this is not fixed. So for an individual player, this will be changing over time, hopefully, and it could change in either direction. Not everybody always improves. So yes, we hopefully will be increasing the level of difficulty of the challenge point. But that doesn't mean that we're always increasing. There are times where it's like, oh, we've lost track of something. We need to go back to something a little bit more simple. And now essentially what we're talking about is a nonlinear pedagogy, that we don't learn in a straight line. We're not always moving in the direction of improvement. Sometimes we got to go back and reassess something.
So incredible segue. So how often are we adjusting? When do we adjust? Like, what's that look like for you?
I attempt to adjust every 3 shots. Now I'm not keeping a tally in my head, but I am trying to be very aware of doing this regularly, because at the very least, if I'm adjusting even in small ways the level of difficulty of a drill, um, then at the very least, I'm adding variability. And so yes, I'm trying to find the challenge point, and there's no concrete right wrong answer of like, oh, the light turned green, you're in the challenge point, you've hit it perfectly, keep the light green. There is nothing like that. We're taking best guesses, but I know as long as I'm trying to find it and as long as I'm in the right area, at the very least, if I'm adjusting, I'm forcing adaptation of the skill as opposed to learning to repeat the skill and through the variability that I'm introducing. So at the very least, I have that working for me.
So at very minimum, your challenge point remains the same and you're doing it from another spot on the floor, like at the very baseline. So you've adjusted the things to make it as difficult as you think is appropriate, and then you're like, do it over there, like at very minimum.
At the very minimum. Hopefully, even a little. Hopefully, our minimum is a little higher than that, even. And rather than saying, okay, let's imagine the player is we're at a really low level of complexity or difficulty, and unfortunately we're doing spots or something like that. You know how we don't love spots here, but they're at the wing, and yeah, I could just move them to the top and to the other wing, but that's probably no more difficult. And so the adjustment I'd rather make would be no more difficult and no real adaptation is being made. What I'd rather do is just say, okay, he's missed the last three and reverted back to the habit that we're trying to avoid on three of the last four. Move in a step, try and find that feeling that we've identified and we're verbalizing with our external cue. Try and find that again. Oh, good. Those last two were better. Now move back again. Oh, those are really good. Give me a little faster. And like I'm adjusting like the context to try and find to try and find that challenge for them.
So that just, I mean, again, from an engagement perspective, I can imagine that is, you're trying to balance your instruction, right? Because you don't want to be teaching, you don't want to be inputting the whole time, but also like it has to be fun and or engaging and or task specific. Like I get it.
Yeah, and the brain has to be turned on. Like ultimately, if I say, okay, give me 25 reps from that same spot, by rep 4, the player's brain is turned off and they're just in repetition mode. And at the very least, maybe it's not a massive increase in cognitive load, but if I say move in a step, subconsciously they're having to make some sort of little adjustment, move back a step. Okay, jump to your left on this one, jump to your right on that one. They're a little more engaged at least, and hopefully there's engagement around like the habit that we're working towards trying to explore, and engagement around, okay, what's changing in my environment.
I like it. Dave, let's take a quick break here and come back with the next section.
Most players don't miss shots because of lack of effort. They miss because of specific habits or motor patterns that are holding them back. And that's why I created my shot development systems. Each system is a fluid progression of drills designed to improve one of the 3 most common shooting issues. Consistency and balance helps players build a stable base and reduce lower body habits that can cause inconsistency. Fluidity and arc helps players explore a more functional ball path and creates improved arc. And pure release highlights habits of hand placement, release, and guide hand interference. Each program is video-based with more than 50 detailed videos, over 2 hours of teaching organized in clear phases with guidance on how and when to progress. Players get the structure they need to actually improve, not just hope. And for coaches, you can bundle all 3 systems to save and start building your own complete shooting development plan with drills and progressions you can trust. These are the same principles I've taught to NBA teams, NCAA programs, and youth organizations all around the world, and now they're available to you. Go to CoachDaveLove.com/store and get started today.
All right, welcome back. Dave, as we always do, we come back from a timeout with an ATO. We drop an ATO. We put 24 seconds up on the thought clock in my office, Dave, and you're going to give me a concise look at something we talked about in the last segment.
Look at every handful of shots. If you're doing a bulk work, like a shooting workout, look at every handful of shots and make a little micro adjustment to the situation for a player to try and like either simplify it if they need it or make it more complex if they're able to, if you're able to.
Got to look. Good look. I like it. Do you want to intro this next section? Because I can say the words and they don't really mean anything to me at this point in time.
Good. Okay. So in order to scroll up here, in order to find the challenge point, we have to be aware of task difficulty. That's ultimately what we're talking about, is how difficulty is the task. And there's two kinds of task difficulty. There is functional and nominal task difficulty. And it took me a little while to get these straight in my head. Or which one should I start with? Nominal task difficulty is all the things that would be more or less difficult for anyone. So we increase nominal task difficulty for everyone, when we move further away from the rim. We reduce it when we move closer to the rim. If I make somebody do something faster, I'm increasing the nominal difficulty. That it's harder for everyone. The functional task difficulty is specific to that player. Something that I find difficult might be something different than you find difficult. And so that is the functional task difficulty. And ultimately, what we're trying to do as coaches is we're adjusting the nominal task difficulty, all the things that are universal from person to person, to find the right level of functional task difficulty for that particular player. And they will all probably be at least a little bit different. Does that make sense?
I think so. And so what I would have described as like environmental changes, that's more on the nominal side of things. Like, again, closer, further, different spot, go faster, go slower. That's a nominal task. Adding a defender.
All of those things, yes, I would say are nominal. I would want to dive into your comment about the environmental things, because I think that can overlap into the other category, whereas some of the environmental things I might not find as challenging as you do, or vice versa. So I think we should just be careful about that, and ultimately, like, I don't need coaches to know which specifically every idea, which category does it fit in. I just want you to sort of have and I think most of us do have a broad understanding of, oh, I'm able to adjust these things to find the right level of difficulty. And these things are nominal, and that is functional. And that's what I'm trying to achieve.
Can you give me a couple easy examples of functional task difficulty, like adjusting the functional task difficulty for me as a player, or pick a player in your mind?
The Steph Curry, his ability to shoot a basketball, he doesn't find that as difficult as, we won't name a name, but a weaker shooter.
Well, that everyone else,
right? Yeah, fair. In history,
ever.
Yeah, and so he would say, like, we could give him a very complex shooting task, and he might say that wasn't so bad, and then I might say, "Woo-wee, that was tough," and so he's at a much higher. His challenge point is functionally much higher than mine. Did I answer the question?
So a little. Okay, let's go to a mediocre shooter who struggles going right. You referenced somebody who struggled going right earlier. So function from a functional task difficulty. they struggle going right more than I do, or Steph Curry, or what have you. So adjusting, like forcing them to go right, or making it so they have to go right with a defender, or however you're doing that in a drill, is increasing the functional task difficulty.
Yeah, by adding the defender, I'm probably increasing the nominal task difficulty, which then increases the functional. And don't worry about getting too in the weeds on this. Like I know the whole episode, like what we do is
Let's
go into the weeds. But like, and I can't promise I have this exactly right. I'm going to be absolutely in the ballpark. But the true expert in the theory might come and say, well, that's not exactly true. But the application, I think, is what we're really worried about.
So we're going to lean on you as the functional expert in the NBA context, because I know that this is not super widely used. So in the NBA context, the expert Dave Love says this until the theorists
right.
in football or in behavioral whatever, until they
and then I need to push back on those particular people about the application. I know that's what the theory says. I'm coaching a human being.
Yeah, there you go.
And so we're not coaching theoretical people. Anyway, so that's a whole other topic. So I want to just talk about the ways in which I adjust the difficulty. So it would go back to my 7 different layers. And you were very excited about something for a second there.
Well, we have alluded to these layers. We've mentioned a number of them. Dave, you've never actually delivered the ingredients, the 12 herbs and spices here. Never in one go.
I know. So should I give an I'm going to be talking about these more, and so this is going to become like something that I put out a little bit more. So we'll just talk about it. So there are 7 different things that I try and adjust. The nominal ways that I adjust the difficulty of the drill to find the right functional level for that particular player. So, and I used to think about these in 3 different categories. So I'm used to presenting them in that order. So the first thing is distance. If I want to make something harder for somebody, I can move them further away from the rim. If I need to make it easier for somebody, I can move them closer to the rim. If I want to make something harder, I can speed them up, or I can slow them down. So speed is number 2. Number 3 would be movement. If we need to do something really simple, we can do it stationary. That'll make it easier. And if I want to make it harder, I can move them or move them more dynamically. I can add in passes or that the shooter has to catch. Rather than starting with the ball in their hand, not very game representative, I add a catch, and I can make the catches more complicated to add more difficulty, or simplify them, or take them away to decrease. I can do the same thing with the dribble pickup. I can add defenders, or I can add decisions. And those are all the things I try and think of them as like a music producer's board of different faders, and I'm adjusting the level of all those different faders to find the challenge point for that particular player in that particular moment, in that situation that they're in.
So now I can become an NBA shooting coach? Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much,
yeah. No, again, I know we've talked about all of these individually at different times, but it's nice to have them all categorized in one little block, because when I'm picturing using these in a workout, of course, if anyone sat down with a pen, they could have come up with some version of this if they thought for 2 hours,
right. And hopefully they do have their own version of it.
Okay, Dave, let's take a quick break, and we're going to get back to challenge point here.
If you or a player you coach want to truly understand what's happening in the shot, I offer a video shot analysis that brings NBA level feedback right to you. No matter where in the world you live, you can upload a simple video from your phone, and I'll return a detailed breakdown, 10 minutes or more, walking you through your mechanics as if we were sitting together side by side. You'll hear my voice as I slow down the video, zoom in, draw on the screen, and point out the specific habits that are helping or holding back your shot. Then I'll help you identify the single most important idea to focus on and recommend a shot development system tailored to your needs. This is the same process I've used with NBA players, NCAA programs, and national federations, now available to anyone who wants to unlock their potential as a shooter. Don't leave your shot to chance. Go to CoachDaveLove.com/store and get your video shot analysis today.
Okay, welcome back. Dave, ATO, 24 up on the thought clock. Give me a concise look at something we talked about in the last segment.
The 7 layers that I adjust in order to make things more difficult or more simple for players are distance, speed, movement, catches, dribbles, defenders, or decisions.
We got the best look we've gotten in a while. So we're in a drill. We have purpose. We have intent. We're adjusting. How do we know that the adjustments are working? How do we know it's time to move on from this or to escalate the challenge point even further? How do you know?
2 things. So for me, it's not one answer. It's a balance between 2 different things. Number 1, how well are they executing around the intention? Like if we decided we're working on trying to get our feet wider apart because we believe that being more balanced is going to help you make more shots. Well, how often are they actually getting more balanced? How often are we getting their feet wider apart? If they're still in the environment that we've created, off balance or not getting their feet wide apart, then I might need to simplify a little bit more. And so the execution of the habit would be number 1. Number 2 is why are we doing all of this? To try and get the ball in the basket. So if the ball is not going in the basket, if we're not making or missing, if we're not making shots, then we might be learning, but are we applying what we're learning? And I don't chase the highest number here, except for maybe on free throws. My goal isn't that, all right, we want to get the execution of this habit every single time, and I want to be making every single shot. That's not the challenge point. That is too easy a practice. We are going to make mistakes in games. We are going to miss shots in games. So for the execution of the habit, I search for getting it right 80, 85% of the time. And I'm not keeping a tally in my head. I'm just kind of being loosely aware. Are we doing this right a lot? Are we making some mistakes and hopefully learning from them? I do want some quote unquote mistakes. That'll be degeneracy. That'll be the variability of the movement pattern. We do want some of that. And I would argue with better players, we want more. And I'm not chasing a super high number of makes. I'm chasing about what I'd expect from an in-game percentage. So I'm looking for maybe a little higher. I might be searching for a 50% make rate in whatever drill, even if I'm doing form shooting. So even if I'm doing really simple stuff, yes, I want the habit right a lot, but I'm not waiting around for us to do this at a 90% success, make rate before I move on. As soon as we're starting to okay, we're making half of them, I'm making the environment more game-like. I'm increasing the challenge point.
That was going to be my moment of clarification because you said 80%, and that's just the habit, the specific habit that you're targeting. The intent of the drill is 80% success rate, and then the makes and misses are the other number.
Yeah, and again, with a better shooter, that execution of the habit, I might start to lower. They have now a functional solution. So if we're doing a skill adaptability phase of training, where I'm increasing the challenge, I do want them to try and explore the movement pattern the habit that we're trying to establish. I do want them to be exploring around that, but I don't want them to be repeating that. I want there to be a little variation. So it might even increase once we've stabilized a movement pattern, once we've got a functional habit, a way of shooting that works. And for those weaker shooters, in the phase where we're stabilizing the movement pattern, in the movement coordination phase, then I might be increasing the percentage of time that I want them to execute around that habit, or narrowing the scope of variability, if that makes sense.
Like, this is what I would have thought when I was looking at the outline and thinking about it. Like, this is sort of the hammer action for me, where we're talking about, like, I mean, the whole episode is very practical. You have your 7 ways to adjust the functional task difficulty, but real true application so hammer actions, where we hammer home an actionable item for the coaches at home. If your player is completing the habit successfully around 80% of the time, and then again making an appropriate amount of
appropriate amount of shots.
Yeah, appropriate amount of shots. Sorry, you can carry on here. I know we're going to talk about the makes and misses philosophy kind of to finish, but I think this kind of sort of ties into that, and so I just kind of wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, you're just trying to find that balance between those two things. I do want them to explore around this new habit more, because if they're exploring other habits, those are the ones they're learning. If it's 80% mistakes, they're learning the mistakes, and though I should be saying mistakes in air quotes, because really there are no mistakes. There's just maybe less functional habits. So if a player has their feet close together, you can still make shots like that. I'm just not going to bet on it in a hard situation. So if they're 80% of the time getting their feet narrow close together, what are they practicing? What are they learning? They're learning that, and that's not the habit I'm trying to guide them towards. So I need to get them exposure to the thing that we want to try and be working on. And again, that comes back to the intention.
So when you're thinking about the makes and misses philosophy here, like expand on that for me. Like, what are you thinking about when you think about that?
Well, I think this is more just a recap of the things that hopefully we have been talking about. So number one, like I'm not necessarily chasing makes. I'm not out there trying to get like the highest number that I possibly can. I'm trying to find the appropriate level of challenge, like the appropriate exposure to challenge, while getting realistic percentage of makes. And if the percentages of makes is too high, then my drill probably isn't as game like as it could have been, and we should be increasing the difficulty. What were you going to say?
Is there anything else here that you really want to touch on before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, we might be at a tight 48. Just looking through my list, free throws might be the one exception on the make rate, because that's the one environment where we do have more control. Like Steph is up at some years 95%, or some stretches of time 95%. So in that environment, yeah, I might be chasing a much higher make rate. I might not be adjusting the difficulty too much, because it is a way more controlled environment, and I will be increasing the variability. But I'm hoping that when I increase the variability, if Steph Curry can make 95% of the shots from the free throw line, pretty sure it's going to be around 95 if I move them into 14 feet on one shot, 15 feet on the other, 16 feet on the other, and then bouncing back and forth. So I can still be chasing a high degree of makes in that free throw environment.
So to wrap up the episode, Steph Curry, best shooter alive, 95. We should be all aspiring to his free throw percentages, and away we go. Great, got it. Good.
Yeah.
That was the best example of the episode when I asked for a practical example of functional skill mix, and you're like, well, for Steph Curry, he finds shooting a basketball to be easier than most people, and I was like, well, that is all people ever forever.
That will go on your highlight reel for sure.
That's right. Dave Love, an absolute delight as always. Where can the people find you if they want to get in touch?
I want you to find me on social media at Coach Dave Love, and again, wait middle of March 2026. If it's before that, then just wait to sign up for my newsletter, but be ready to sign up for it on CoachDaveLove.com. We're just kind of reworking everything, a bunch of new information coming, and that's where CoachDaveLove.com is where you can sign up.
Awesome. I'm Matt Robertson. You can find me on LinkedIn and at Coach Matty Rob on X/Twitter. Thank you for listening to the end. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. It all really helps. And see us next week or in 2 weeks.
You've been listening to the Coach Dave Love podcast. For more insights, make sure to sign up for my free shooting newsletter and access exclusive resources at CoachDaveLove.com.